It is not a generational curse. It is not a biblical prophecy, nor is it a slave syndrome. The time of believing in such feeble-minded premises has now passed. We've now entered the era of knowing the truth. The truth of our collective condition is caused by hidden nefarious tactics that are being secretly, constantly deployed by white oppressive forces in order to facilitate their ongoing long-term oppression and subjugation of Black people. The hidden reality is that although most Black people no longer experience the same type of blatant, white racist, oppressive, and subjugation tactics as our grandparents had experienced, we are, however, still unknowing victims of such practices. The white society has not overcome its narcissistic, racist tendencies. It has merely developed more covert methods for deploying it. The white society's oppression, exploitation, and subjugation of Black people is now being implemented more successfully and more proficiently than at any previous time in history, because it's now being done so without any Black resistance. This is because the Black victims no longer recognizes how it's being deployed. White racism always works best when its Black victims no longer recognizes it. This is why those of us who know the truth must teach. African proverb. Here's the truth of our plight and condition. White social engineering scientists and white propagandists systematically feeds false information into the collective minds of Black people that are deliberately designed to manipulate us who think in ways that serves and protects the system of white supremacy. Regardless of how intelligent people are, if it's possible to control the input into the human mind, it's entirely possible to control what people believe. The white society has exploited its monopoly over information that Black people receive to shape our beliefs in ways that serves and protects their white society. People's behavior aligns with what they've been made to believe. Therefore, people can be made to believe false things that are deliberately designed to change their collective behaviors in ways that are against their own collective self-interest, thus negatively impacting their communities. Here's a quick example that proves this point. If you manipulate people to believe that they are their worst enemies, this belief will divide them, make them self-hating, and it will shift their collective aggressions away from their true enemies and redirect it towards themselves. And as long as these people are kept believing that they are their worst enemies, they can then be ruled over forever. It's a well-proven tactic called information warfare. Information warfare is when false information is fed to a targeted population that is designed to make the targeted population begin thinking and behaving in ways that are against their own self-interest, and that instead serve the interests of those conducting the information warfare. This is the warfare tactic that white oppressive forces currently deploys against Black people. Case, point, and proof. To prevent us from unifying ourselves against the white society, white propagandists constantly inundates us with fraudulent propaganda that misleads us to perceive ourselves as being our own worst enemies. This divides us, demoralizes us, and it shifts our collective aggressions away from the white society and redirects it towards ourselves. It's the true reason why we are more divided now than at any previous time in history. To make us believe that slavery actually benefited us, they miseducate us to believe that our ancestors were illiterate and uncivilized before the Europeans invaded. And they also show us only the poorest parts of Africa within their white-controlled media. This causes millions of us to feel indebted to the white society for brutally enslaving our ancestors, because we've been manipulated to perceive it as having been a rescue mission that ultimately benefited us. Through this information warfare, Black people have been brainwashed to in fact love our oppression. They also constantly feed us disinformation that claims that all study results favors whites over Blacks. This is being done to subliminally embed the myth of white racial superiority into our subconscious minds. This makes many of us feel subservient towards whites and more compliant with white dominance over our lives. White propagandists also feeds false propaganda campaigns that claims that we Africans are actually the true indigenous Americans and not from Africa. However, countless millions of DNA analysis testings have scientifically proven our African identity. Here's the hidden reason for this false propaganda. During the Carter administration, Dr. Zabriskie, a national security advisor and political scientist, warned President Carter, and all State Department governments agencies that they had to do everything possible within their power to prevent African Americans and Africans throughout the Caribbean from unifying with Native Africans politically, culturally, and economically. When Africans are divided globally, we lose our global numerical advantage and we're stripped of all hopes of defeating global white supremacy. This resulted in white propagandists creating many propaganda campaigns to divide we Africans globally. Also, when we African Americans claim that we are the true indigenous Americans, this also creates a profound division between we and the true indigenous Americans. When two oppressed people are divided in the U.S., this makes the U.S. system of white supremacy even stronger. It's time to wake up. They also feed us the false propaganda that we African Americans made the N-word ours and that using it now ridiculously empowers us. However, calling ourselves niggers actually psychologically conditions us to perceive ourselves through a false, inherent, subordinate, inferior identity that aids the white society in maintaining its social dominance and social control over us. The ultimate goal is to spread so much disinformation into the Black communities until virtually everything believed by Black people are lies that makes us think and behave in ways benefiting the white society. Those lies also confuse the Black community to such an extent that we're not able to come together to make any sensible conclusion in the interest of liberating ourselves from white oppression. White oppressive forces also exploits their monopoly over information that Black people receive to deploy what is called structural cultural stupidity warfare against the African American population. It is also called culture of ideological stupidity. This is when a dominant group exploits its monopoly over information that a targeted population receives by constantly feeding them idiotic ideologies. Those among the targeted population that are ignorant and gullible will accept the idiotic ideologies and start repeating it and functioning based upon it. These ignorant ones are then given a national media platform to amplify the idiotic ideology they've accepted, while the intelligent critical thinkers among the targeted group are denied national media platforms to express their intelligent objections against the idiotic ideology. This creates a one-sided flow of information into the targeted population, promoting the idiotic ideology. This makes the ignorant ones more overconfident within their state of ignorance, and it makes the intelligent ones feel intimidated and they become silent. Through this silence, this allows the beliefs accepted by the ignorant ones to prevail throughout the communities, creating a culture of stupidity. This is what has been done to the African American culture. It's the true reason why millions now self-identify ourselves by the N-word, call our women by the B words, sags our pants below our asses, glorifies pimps, celebrates our own denigration, and gets our morals from a book written by the most immoral people we've ever encountered, and believe that a Bible brutally beaten unmercifully into the blood-soaked minds of our ancestors by their ungodly enslavers contains the true words of God that will set us free. These idiotic beliefs prevail because the objections of not giving a national platform. These beliefs are in fact stupid, but the reason why millions of Black people cannot see that it is stupid because they've normalized their distorted mindset. And because they've normalized it, they'll make enemies of anyone who tries to correct their mindset. Metaphorically speaking, the collective minds of African Americans have been turned upside down. We Africans throughout the Americas and the Caribbean are more susceptible to negative social engineering because unlike Africans that remained upon the continent, we were totally stripped of our true identity and culture, which makes us more susceptible to this idiotic social engineering. It is time to wake up. They've socially engineered us through an ideological subversion system. Social engineering is an effort usually conducted by governments to produce desired characteristics within a targeted population. Ideological subversion is an offensive propaganda psychological warfare tactic that uses disinformation and repetitive media subliminal programming to manipulate targeted populations to think and behave in ways that are against their own collective interests, and instead in ways serving the interests of those deploying the ideological subversion system. Until we break the monopoly the oppressors have over our minds, Black liberation is not only impossible, it is unthinkable. That is a quote from Neely Fuller Jr. I never said that what I teach would be easy for all to comprehend. I only said that it will be the absolute Black liberating truth. You must learn it in order to liberate yourself. Those of us who are telling you the truth are trying to free you from a mental prison you don't even know you're trapped within. Brothers and sisters, it's time to wake up. One love and peace.